For the purpose of this video, I'll be acting as Ruby, a school counselor at UBC Okanagan.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'll be acting as Jerry, a 23-year-old student at UBCO. I've been referred to counseling by my professor for increased anxiety.
And I'm Chelsea. I'll be acting as a narrator to walk you through the use of CBT on our client. The first thing we are going to do is give you a background of our client, Jerry. Then we will provide a brief description of what cognitive behavioral therapy is. Next, we'll provide examples of what a CBT session could look like with Ruby and Jerry. We'll also discuss the strengths and limitations for this case and provide suggestions of what other theories may be helpful. Throughout this process, we learned about our biases, assumptions, and positionality. We'll share with you how this may have affected our work and share suggestions for moving forward.
I'm Jerry, and I'm a 23-year-old university student. I want to get my act together because I want to get into the MSW program here, so I need to get good grades and reference letters. My supervisor sent me the counseling, but I don't really think I have that many issues. I'll participate, though, because I really want good references. I guess when I think about it, I've been skipping class more lately, and I've been getting angry at fellow students when they say something I don't agree with. It's been really hard for me to settle down in Kelowna, and I don't know anyone, and people don't care what I have to say or even give me the time of day. Life is a lot more different here than in Singapore, where I spent most of my life growing up. I really miss my friends and dad, who are both living in Singapore right now. My father works a lot, though, so I don't see him that much, but I still like his company. I don't really remember my mother. She left when I was 3, but I think she's living somewhere in Saskatchewan now. I've been really missing home lately. Last month, I got hit by a car while riding my bike to get groceries. I was wearing a helmet, so I didn't go get it checked out, but I got headaches after. I took over-the-counter medication to help, and I think I'm doing fine.
CBT is a short-term, action-oriented psychotherapy. It came about by combining behaviorism, how our actions are affected by what happens before a behavior and considers consequences to follow, and cognitive theories, which suggest that thoughts, not just consequences, influence behavior. In CBT, clients are supported to change their thoughts, feelings, and behavior in order to improve mental health and wellness. Homework assignments and skill acquisition set CBT apart from other talk therapies. The client-professional relationship, though structured, is very collaborative.
So why would we use CBT with Jerry? CBT has been established through extensive research for anxiety in adolescents. Originally, Jerry was referred for increased anxiety, making CBT helpful. When we heard from Jerry earlier, you may have been able to notice some cognitive distortions regarding his feelings about isolation and loneliness. CBT can work to change his negative automatic thoughts, which will have a positive effect on his feelings. Let's tune in to a session with Ruby and Jerry. I'll help point out CBT perspectives, techniques, and interventions. Let's assume Ruby has already discussed with Jerry the concept of CBT and that they are in the middle of their first session.
So, Jerry, so far you've shared with me that you're finding the adjustment to Kelowna really difficult. You miss the comforts from back at home, you miss your friends and your father back in Singapore. You've got a lot on your mind right now in terms of your family, your school, and your decisions that you're trying to make about your future. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about your feelings. So maybe over this past week, how have you been feeling?
Yeah, come to think of it, I haven't been feeling so great. I don't really leave the house unless I have to, so I'm feeling kind of lonely, and I've been skipping classes even though I know I probably shouldn't be.
So let's focus on that for a second. Can you tell me a little bit more about your thoughts before you have a lecture that you're supposed to go to?
Yeah, I just don't think it's worthwhile to go because I feel like every time I go, I think I'm going to be judged, and I just don't really see the point of going when I know that that's going to be the outcome.
It sounds like you're really struggling to connect with others. Can you tell me about the emotions that you're feeling when you have those thoughts that you described to me?
Sadness, frustration, anger, loneliness, all of the above, I guess. Yeah.
So you've told me that you have these thoughts that nobody cares about you and nobody wants to hear from you, and that these thoughts, they make you angry and sad and really frustrated. When you feel this way, you just stay at home and you can't be bothered to go to your classes. How do you feel after you've skipped that lecture?
I mean, obviously I feel guilty for missing out on an academic opportunity. And I feel especially guilty now that my professor has recommended me come here and noticed. Yeah.
Let's freeze here for a moment. Here we can see how, by using exploratory questioning, Ruby was able to uncover Jerry's automatic negative thoughts. Ruby connected how Jerry's thoughts are affecting his feelings and his feelings are affecting his actions, ultimately leading to him skipping class. This is an example of what happens in the assessment stage. Let's see where they're at now.
So taking into consideration our conversation so far, what's your main goals?
I think I want to make more friends while I'm here, and it'll help me settle into Kelowna more. And I think that means I have to go to class more in order to meet some more people.
Have you ever heard of SMART goals?
Yeah, I'm an athlete. I've heard of those before.
That's awesome. So let's take a look at those goals and let's try to make them SMART. So we'll try to make them specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely.
Okay, sounds good.
So what would that look like?
I guess if I think about it and I think about the rest of the semester, I could aim to go to 90% of the rest of my classes. I think that accounts for like if I'm sick or can't make it for any reason, I can still achieve that goal. And then in terms of meeting more people, I think I could speak up and engage more in class and also maybe attend some of the mixers that I get emails for on campus. I know there's like a lot of stuff going on, especially around the holiday season.
Yeah, those do sound definitely very smart.
CBT involves mutually agreed upon SMART goal setting. Ruby is happy with these goals as they target Jerry's unhelpful thoughts and behavior. We'll fast forward to the intervention stage where Ruby will use strategies with Jerry to ensure they are working towards his goals.
So Jerry, I'd like to talk to you about something called cognitive distortions. When we were talking earlier, there were a few things you said that really stood out to me. I heard you say, nobody cares what I have to say, and there's no point in going. Sometimes our brain makes shortcuts in order to shorten our thoughts, and it leaves out some really important considerations. It sounds to me like these statements may be distorted, and they're leading to some pretty painful emotions. Let's look at the first statement. Nobody cares what I have to say. We call this mind reading, so it's when we assume that we know what other people are thinking. Here's a worksheet on cognitive distortions. It explains the common ones, and it helps you work through some of your thoughts. Do you think that you could have this completed by the time you come in next week?
Yeah, that's interesting. It does seem like my brain works like a computer to make shortcuts, and maybe it isn't taking in all of the evidence. So yeah, I'd definitely like to work through this and see where we end up, and I can follow up with you next week.
Perfect.
Cool.
At this point, Jerry isn't ready to move into termination, as he is still working on his goals and on recognizing and decreasing his cognitive distortions. But you can see from this session that using CBT techniques while working with Jerry helped target his negative thoughts and anxiety.
So we'd like to talk a little bit about the strengths and limitations of CBT. So firstly, some strengths. CBT is grounded in evidence and research, specifically regarding anxiety in adolescence. Jerry was initially referred because of his anxiety, so this theory is really relevant and strong for this case. Furthermore, CBT is often referred to as an easy-to-use psychotherapy due to its structured approach.
However, it is important to note that there are also limitations in using CBT with Jerry. CBT gives the social worker a lot of authority and can replicate the experience of colonization in marginalized groups. After spending much of his life in Singapore, matched with his motivation to gain a positive reference, Jerry is vulnerable to this limitation. Further, CBT does not have the scope for personal exploration of history and emotions, and in Jerry's case, this would be very beneficial to explore. Lastly, there are concerns regarding the incident where Jerry got hit by a car, and a CBT perspective may not recognize this from a biological perspective.
In addition to CBT, we think that using a strengths-based approach with Jerry would be beneficial. This would focus on Jerry's capacities, abilities, and resilience that he has already shown, and provide Jerry with hope for a positive outcome. Further, using a biopsychosocial spiritual perspective would allow the social worker to gain a concise summary of Jerry's information, which would help provide context to his situation. Using BPSS would recognize his headaches caused by the accident, the way he views himself, and his current interests and supports. Go ahead.
We noticed a few biases and assumptions that came up while working on this project. In this case, we were able to relate to Jerry as we are also students that are adapting to a new environment. However, we are white, middle-class, university-educated women who are moving from other Canadian cities to the Canadian city of Kelowna.
Our social location was affecting our interpretation of his situation as we failed to recognize further stressors that he was facing when coming from Singapore and leaving comforts and supports of home.
So to conclude, this assignment has helped us to recognize the importance about learning about and incorporating different theories and practice in order to try and increase strengths and reduce limitations. So we think it's necessary to continue building our self-awareness and explore our values so that we can be most efficient when real Jerrys come into our office as social workers.